good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Island Stats Football Show. I'm your host, Earl Basin. Joining me, our co-host, Macy O'Dill, and Coach Keto Robinson. First of all, guys, good evening. What a week we've had of football. Let me just run down all the results from this past week, starting with Wednesday night. It was the Dudley quarterfinals, and we saw it was Dandytown Hornets 1, Hamilton Parish 4. North Village Rams 1, PHC Zebras 0. And then in the Premier Division on Thursday night, it was Devonshire Cougars 5, Crossroads 1. Then last night, up at Somerset Cricket Club, it was Somerset Trojans 0, St. George's Colts 1. And then in today's Premier Division matches, it was the PHC Zebras 4, Robin Hood 0, North Village Rams 2, Hamilton Parish 0. And in First Division, on last night at Somerset, it was Devonshire Colts 2, St. David's 1, Young Man Social Club 3, Paget Lions 3. That was at Bernard Park today. Somerset Eagles 0, BAA 2 at Whitehill Field, and Ireland Rangers 1, Southampton Rangers 2. So those were the results from this past week. I see Coach Keita with a big grin on her face. I don't know if it's a dejected grin or not, but when we get to those picks, oh my gracious! But let's jump into the quarterfinals on Wednesday night, where Hamilton Parish in the opening match defeated Dandytown Hornets 4-1. Clearly, there's something going on at St. John's Road, and if they're not careful, they could find themselves in the bottom half of this table. And I know that particular match was the Dudley Eve, but when rock sets in, we know it takes a while to get yourself out. But clearly there's something wrong going on over there on St. John's Road. What's your thoughts, Maceo?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's back to the amateur behavior. And when I say the amateur behavior is that they won what they wanted last year. They dug in deep. They was playing for one of the players that passed away. They had some motivation, and this year they're just not got the same motivation. I would say they're not training the same. They're not putting in the same effort, and on top of it, they're the target of everybody else. They're the target of everybody else wants to beat the champion, and you need to, when you're the target, you need to dig in deeper. So if you, for instance, I know, and just to cross reference with the concept of professional environment, Man City Goods get Harlan. That's a dig in deeper, right? They won the league and they go get another top player to give them another boost. Dandytown lost their top players. Two different behaviors, right? And the players would just need, and the players and the coach, everybody would have just needed something else that is a motivation to dig in deep. But they'll figure themselves out of it, right? But they're not going to be, for me, they're not going to end up being contenders to defend the league title. They'll figure themselves out. But it's just the amateur behavior.
Yeah, Coach Keita, they ran into a informed team in Hamilton Parish on Wednesday night. Parish coming in with a lot of confidence. They're playing well. They're doing all the things they need to do, and they come out victorious. I mean, confidence is high at the club, clearly.
Yeah, but they would know that they were running into a wounded animal too, right? Dandytown is trying to find their way. I'm sure that they understand where their weaknesses are, and is now trying to figure out how. And I know that they did some work during the off season to try to work on those weaknesses and the players that they would have had in their team that they would have lost, that they would have needed to actually replace. And I know that they made an effort to do so. They were successful in some areas and not successful in others. So Parish would know that, and Sergio would have done his own work, and he would have seen where they can actually catch them, and that's what happened. I was very surprised by the scoreline, and I know for a fact that I picked Dandytown to win that match. So I definitely was surprised by the scoreline.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously the second match was one of those matches that intrigued just about everybody because 5 days prior, PHC had lost at PHC to North Village. They go to Devonshire Rack, and there's a rematch of sorts. So, Maceo, give me your take on North Village beating PHC back to back by the same score.
Well, Kenny seems to have the measure of the truck points up there. He seems to have the measure of PHC and how he sets up. And interesting, I see why PHC is not winning games. They're not got their puzzle piece together as to the for instance, PHC dominated the bowl. They totally dominate the bowl without creating any real goal threat in their domination. You know, they got the guy Pole up front. For me, he needs to see more of the ball. He needs to play a little bit deeper, and they need to figure out who else could be a goal threat in that team, so they can actually, you know, start to score goals. Because Marco, again, I see what Punchy was talking about. Marco playing a little bit deeper, and even at 9 man, PHC at 9 man still controlled the ball without being a goal threat. So they're not got the puzzle piece together because for the amount of time and possession they have of the ball, and they're not a goal threat. Whereas North Village, sustained, they're showed a little bit of grit. They're showed a grit when they're under pressure, when they don't have the ball. They accepted that they don't have the ball, and then they picked their moments to counterattack, and they scored a wonderful goal through Trey Mean. Just a bit of individual brilliance with Trey Mean, and at 1-0 they can hold out and win games. They can win games at North. So kudos to North Village to being able to do that. But PAC's got a little bit ahead of them when they meet teams that can dig in defensively.
Mm. And Coach Keita, clearly, North Village back-to-back times have PAC's number. Were you surprised?
Yeah, I picked PAC again. That's twice. I don't know. I probably can't go down the park.
I picked North Village.
Yeah, you did. I should have followed you, but in my heart of hearts, I was like, you know what? But I also think that it's a bit, with Trey Meeing having left and going over to North Village, so it's a bit of emotion involved as well in the match. And once PAC can play beyond that, I think they'll be all right. My concern for PAC is and obviously they did well today, right? But my concern for PAC would be, does Marco Warren have the help that he needs in the middle of the field? Because if you isolate Marco and there's nothing else, then that's where PAC is gonna have a problem. If you're one dimensional, right? So when they, like Macy said, come up against a team that's gonna be defensively organized, they lost Trey, they've lost Antoine. There are some other spotlights. I think Keyshawn Bean can be that player that can actually relieve some of the pressure on Marco to kind of free him up. But right now PAC have to find some more threats because that's what's going to be needed for them to be able to achieve what it is that they're trying to achieve this year. They've lost some pretty big players, before they lost Sequoia. Could you imagine a PAC with Antoine, Sequoia, Trey, and Marco? So we have to look at that as well. And it's now PAC in that phase of regrouping.
Right.
They have to regroup and they'll be bringing some more players through. I'm sure, but they're just in that awkward phase right now.
Where they just adding to that, where they struggle at, and I've seen a couple of teams struggle at, as who's their number 6, who's the player that starts attacks and breaks up attacks, and picks the right passes. So PAC the other night had 2 holder midfielders in Keyshawn Bean and another young gentleman, I don't know his name, but both of them weren't picking the right passes to start to move the attack, So they wasn't picking the right passes that can expose teams. So what happened? Marco starts coming deeper when he starts coming deeper to try to stimulate that right pass coming from a deeper position. But then Marco's not close to the goal. So that's where I see that was also North Village's problem. The number six as he gets in possession, and does he pick the right passes? And North Village changed to number six today, and they had a totally different outcome. North Village number six against PAC was Shervin's son, Tamai Jennings, and he is just not comfortable there. He doesn't pick the right passes going forward. He doesn't make the right decisions with the ball, and even when he's keeping possession, he still doesn't pick the right passes that can send a player forward and expose another team. So today they changed that, and you saw it's a different result.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's move on to the Thursday night fixture, and it was Devonshire Cougars picking up a 5-1 win over Crossroads. Now, Crossroads come into this game having lost to Hamilton Parish 4-1 over the weekend, and end up losing again 5-1. So they're giving up 9 goals and only scored 2 in 180 minutes of football. Coach Keita, what should Ralph be working on to try and change, if anything, to try and change and stop these goals from leaking in?
His defensive setup. He has to now move away, and he is a prolific striker. So he will probably need some help in understanding how he needs to set up defensively, because they're leaking a lot of goals, and they're obviously not scoring many. So they will definitely have to. He would definitely have to look at the defensive line. Then without the ball, out of possession, what are they doing out of possession? And it will be something that he may have to just focus on for a while, and just kind of hope for that, or counterattack, or some sort of brilliance that will happen throughout the team. But right now, he's got to kind of put up the shutters, because if he doesn't, it could get pretty ugly. And who did they lose the first one to?
Hamilton Parish 4-1.
Right. So Hamilton Parish, who scored a lot of goals.
They already lost 6-0 to PHC.
So I mean, and they're playing against some teams that's scoring some goals. So. I would think that, and I would hope that by now, and maybe he has worked on that defensive line, or what they're going to be doing when they are out of possession.
Right. And Maceo, Devonshire Cougars seem to be running on all cylinders right now. Picking up a big win in the league to just go on. So your thoughts on how Kwame has set his team up, and the early success that they've had?
Well, I mean, I think they're going to be the mentality monsters this year. There's going to be a mentality that they're going to have to get games close to line and win games and dig in. They have they have experience under their belt. At this time, again, they got motivation. Kwame wants to be in that conversation of top coaches, having won a league, having been a top player himself. I want to see when they test it, and against a team that can organize and they have to break them down, and a team that can sort of punch back. That's going to be the test for them. They struggle against Parish that but they had the mentality to beat Parish. Parish could control a lot of the football, but Cougars knew where to attack. They knew when and where. It's like they could take a big punch, from Parish, and it's like, okay, that's not a big deal. I can take one on the chin, and they can also give one. And Cougars are learning to give those punches in very good areas and very good time of the game. They sense when they've got to go for the kill, and they sense when they've got to control the tempo of the game. So it'll be interesting when they get tested.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to take our first commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Garrett Punchy Dill. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
And welcome back. Well, welcome, Punchy. Hope all is well.
Yeah, all is well. Sorry, my apologies for being late, but I've been down here and Audi Talk and down the field right now, about this game that I witnessed today.
Okay.
And very interesting too. There's a lot of aspects of the game that I want to make it quite clear today.
We're not on that game yet, Punch.
Yeah, we're not on that game yet.
We're not on that game yet.
All right. Okay. All right.
You gotta know your thoughts.
So let's jump into the next Premiership game that took place last night up at the Somerset Cricket Club, where St. George's Coats edged Somerset Trojans 1-0. Now Somerset coming off of week defeat, and St. George's picking up a win last week. They traveled all the way to Somerset and come away with 3 points. I mean, Somerset right now still trying to sort things out. I mean, no goals. How do you address it, Maceo?
I don't know. Might have to call the football gods for what's going up on Somerset and get an opinion from the football gods, because again, I keep going back to they're not developed youth players that are capable. They're not got players right now that are capable, because they got a capable coach, and maybe he has to have the coach has a whole different rethink of his tactics and how he goes about setting his team up, and this is a challenge. I've talked about it before. I know coaches like to play football in a certain way, but to play football in a certain way, you have to have certain players to be able to play it in that way. And if you don't have those players, you can't start thinking about playing possession football or counter-attacking football if you don't have a fast person. So he might have to rethink how he sets his team up, to be able to stop goals and figure out, maybe you score goals on set players, you get stronger at set players, or you hold games tight into the 70 minutes, and then you try to figure. But he's got a whole puzzle piece to figure out, because he's linking goals and he can't score goals. So that's never a good concept when you can't score goals and you can't stop goals.
Yeah. Well, let me bring Punchy in before I go to Coach Keita. Punchy, we have Devonshire Somerset Trojans team that lost their opening game 6-0, and then are going home to play a team that they beat 2 weeks prior 4-3 in St. George's. That was in the Dudley Eve. But in the league, it's they have to be looking to get some early points, and they're struggling right now. You heard what Maceo had to say about what Scott Morton's task is, but having seen Somerset play, where do you think they struggle overall?
I just think, as Maceo said, I just think that he's got a real task on his hands right now. First of all, what I saw when they were at Devonshire last Sunday, they had the occasional attack, but they still look broken. They still look like they don't have a whole unit. There's no seniority in the team, and playing away from him, I think they're going to lose most of the games this season. If he isn't form a defensive, like they're just too open. And I just noticed that again when I saw Damage Iraq. Now last night at the City game, but I just know that Scott has got a lot of things to deal with in terms of it's a young team, the way they play, the way what he wants to achieve there. And I think that's like a building process. What is in? It's got a real building process there. But I think he will get it right eventually. Not this year. No way. It ain't gonna happen this year. But about what he and then the way they played, the setup against Cougars when I saw them out there last Sunday, like they was too open. It's just too open. Like it's just like, well, Scott, work with what you have and see, like I said about two wide players, the Earl Summers of traditional behavior, two wide players, a center forward, maybe 3-3-4, and come up with a that's what I see with them. Like I just don't see how he's gonna. I hope that he could fix it, but it's gonna take time for some. Really,
sure. Coach Keita,
Scott's got to fix Jomar's mess. Yeah.
Actually, I mean, amazing you say. I actually think the match belongs to Somerset.
Yeah, I do. I mean, we spoke about it before. If Scott Martin would have taken over the team that Jomar took over, I think things would have been different. I really do.
Yeah. Well, they played a team last night, St. George's, who had beaten Boulevard the week before. They come Somerset on a high. They get the result they're looking for. But how do you think this sets St. George's up? Now they have 6 points. At the beginning of last season, I think they got 2 draws. So they're in a better position this time around. But how emotionally and you have a vested interest in it. I mean, you have family in it. So where do you think that their season can go from here?
I mean, and St. George's got some talented players. Uncle Ponzi was at the match with Boulevard as well, when he would have seen some things in that match. Blaze and Cash Hole are playing for St. George's this season, and there are some talented young players there. And I think that they will have some more players that's going to come in and actually build that team up a bit more. These 2 games will definitely be confidence boosters for them. These 2 games are going to be games that they're going to look to build on. Going to Somerset to get that result after losing 4-3 in the manner in which they lost in the Dudley Eve, they would have had to rethink. They're going up to Somerset. Somerset's at home. Somerset probably another wounded animal, and St. George's on a high. So let's go hard, let's go fast. And the young Cash Holder didn't play against Boulevard, but he did play last night and scored a pretty good goal as well. So I think that St. George's are working on their puzzle pieces, since that seems to be the theme of our conversation. They're working on their puzzle pieces, and I think that they have some gaps they have to fill as well. You got some players in that side that are holding spaces. I'll call it that, holding spaces. When I watched the Boulevard St. George's match, they made a brilliant decision. Where Boulevard was imploding, as everyone knows now, and they moved Tyrell Burgess high up the pitch. And I thought that was quite a masterstroke by the coach, and it did make the difference in that match. So again, they have some things in their vault that they're using, and they're experimenting when they can with these teams that they can, I guess, take advantage of.
Yeah, but they have a surprise coming later. I guess their next match. They have a new signing turning out for them. So.
Smith. Yes, I heard. Buddy, we'll see.
We'll see.
Smith I'm disappointed in North Village that they didn't go get him.
Yeah. That was. I mean, I don't think that Village didn't try. I think that there were some other circumstances that.
All right. Well, let's move on to PHC defeating Robin Hood 4-0. I don't think anybody was surprised that PHC would win this game because Robin Hood, again, we know they will struggle all year. Now, what they have to try and do is also stop leaking goals. They have Timmy in goal. I'm not sure if he played in goal today, but they've had Timmy in goal. I don't know how long his body can last. Not for a whole season. It's going to be a struggle for him. But looking at a team like PHC Punching, beating Robin Hood 4-0, they would have worked on, without seeing it. You think they would have worked on some of the issues they had displayed against North Village in order to try and right the ship?
I think that's a good. I'm glad you brought that question about how they worked on. I think that's also a barometer for. It's a problem in this country in itself now, having an out and out striker, somebody that can score goals for you. Once you create all the opportunities, then it's about really in the 18-yard box who will score the goals for you and be like continuously all the time. I find that a lot in this country now. It's that I was talking about today's game between North Village and Hamilton Parish in terms of the finishing. I think PHC could fix the problems if. What are we talking about? Let's go back to the old traditional out and out center forward, like at PHC, Mark Basswood, right? I find a lot of teams now are suffering from that. Just a center forward that is determined to score goals, and I think PHC is going to suffer from that. Which I saw today. I think Hamilton Parish also have that problem. So with PHC, it's still a process. It's going to be a process for them. In terms of where they're going to go in terms of winning trophies, like I don't put them in there. I won't put them up for winning this year, winning anything this year. I don't think so. No.
All right. So, Coach Keita, if you had to work with what Robin Hood has to work with, what would be a way you would set them up to try and prevent as many or even a goal scored against?
Again, you have to kind of just work with the tools that you got, and you kind of have to just be realistic, and manage expectations, right? So, I'm sure that Dante, being a center back himself, would have an idea of how he wants to set up defensively to stop leaking those goals. Or as I spoke about before, out of possession, right? When Robin was out of possession. But if you just not got the tools, he's got to work with what he has. You're saying Tim is in goal. I know the young Mateo Hilda is injured. He tore his ACL. Actually goes MSA, and Saki had to play in goal for MSA the other day for the same reason. So maybe Robin Hood could come get Saki. Yeah. With Timmy, playing in goal and is gonna do as much as he can. Even trying to organize. But again, if they're not got the talent that's required, let's call it as it is. If they don't have the talent that's required, they're gonna struggle. And I'm sure they are working on the things they need to work on to try to not concede as many goals. But I know that they understand, and I'm sure Dante understands what he's working with. I mean, we had this conversation when he took over.
Yeah.
Of what it is, and he was pulling some things out of the hat last season. But then again, he's been weakened again, right? He's been pulled from all angles again, and players going to other teams, players going away. So again, it's now trying to get players to fill those gaps, So yeah, for me, it'll just be this is who we're playing against, guys. This is the things that we have to do. This is what we have to work on. Try to maintain possession as long as we possibly can. But yeah, he could just work with what he's got.
Yeah. And Macy, were you surprised that it was only 4 with a free scoring team such as PHC? They've been early in the season scoring, at will against some teams, but then only get 4 against Robin Hood.
Because after seeing PHC, PHC is always going to struggle with goals against an organized team. Against a Robin Hood, where goals are for free, that's how it is. Against Robin Hood, it's free goals. It's actually free. It's 4 free goals against Robin Hood each time you play them that you're not going to really have to work for to earn. And you see PHC scored in the second half against it. So It doesn't surprise me. Robin Hood's challenge, and I keep getting back. Robin Hood's challenge is, do they actually make it through the season? I don't see them having to win a game is a for them to win a game. I can't see it. I can't see that challenge is, do they make it through the season with enough players?
Yeah.
That's that challenge. I don't see it. I don't see a solution for them.
Right.
I don't see it. And we if we went back and we remember the first conversation that we had with Robin Hood coach, a question I asked him is, a talent like his in coaching, is it wasted at that level, or do you go and coach at the youth level to develop players? This is why I'm saying that. This is why I'm saying that, because the second season in, they don't look like they're going anywhere, right? They don't look like they're going anywhere.
Yeah. Now, the final Premier Division match of the weekend saw North Village defeat Hamilton Parish 2-0. Punchy, give us your breakdown of it. Give us your breakdown of what you saw today.
Well, Scott, let's go with Hamilton Parish. I thought long periods of time they dominated the game, long periods of time. But what's most noticeable about them is the finishing, which I find a lot in this country right now. They had opened North Village up numerous times. It's just having a simple number 9, a number just to put the ball in the goal. And if they can correct that and fix that, then they weren't embarrassed today. No way. If I were to tell you and take my statistics in terms of the amount of chances they had, clear-cut chances, like about 10. I got it written out, about 10, and nothing came out of it. With some good, of course, with a good goalkeeper, Detroit Bow. But I just think that it's also in this country having a center forward, somebody that just puts the ball in the goal off all the creative work, all the craftiness, and that's what I think Hamilton Parish showed me today. Now, with North Village, what did I see today? I thought that at times they still look slow. They look predictable. After the game wore on, I thought Hamilton Parish lost their shape, and North Village, this game could have probably ended up at 6-3 in North Village's favor. But the North Village, I figured if somebody could figure out, okay, let's press them hard. Let's do something other than when we get in the 18-yard box, let's finish them with clinical finishing. And, I got to give kudos to North Village also that they haven't lost no games, right? But there's still something that I see they lack. And, but I could, Hamilton Parish should just walk away, say, okay, we dominated a lot of periods of this game. We didn't finish, and that's now they're going to Georges next week. So that's gonna be a tough task for them also.
Yeah. Let me just go to Maceo. Looking at a team like Hamilton Parish, they had a first league defeat. How does Sergio regroup the team? As Punchy has said, they dominated most parts of the game, but confidence will start lacking whenever you do that. If you're dominating the game and you don't win, guys start doubting themselves. So what is something that Sergio is going to have to do this week to get that confidence back in that team?
He's going to have to figure out how to make everybody around Hamilton Parish have a bit of patience with the process, because they're not doing bad, right? So, but the fans have an expectation. You can hear it. They have an expectation, and there will be players that feel that they should be a part, and and I mean the big decisions that he's got to make. The big decision that he's got to make. I watched Jordan Otterbridge. He struggled. He's actually struggled. He was the sort of go-to player last year. He scored the most goals, and he's struggling out on the wings. And they have an issue. Jordan Otterbridge can score goals, but can you get him to a goal? Can you get him to a goal? So he struggled with passes. So that was the only part that I saw in their game today. I mean, they know how to possess the ball. If I look at them, if I cross-reference in North Village today, it was a difference in maturity. North Village was the more mature team, and knew how, and they were the more efficient team in knowing where to attack and when to do certain things. So if I look at North Village's sacking goal, North Village's sacking goal came from a perspective of Trey Mean set the trap. He was very mature in setting the trap and guiding the ball and stealing the ball from Hampton Parish, trying to play out from the back at 2-1. I mean, at 1-0 down, they're trying to play out from the back. North Village wins the ball in the last there, makes two passes, and Jazal finishes. That's maturity. That is maturity. Whereas Parish might have, at that point of time, they might have, wanted to abandon a bit of their playing out from the back end, see if they can play on the front foot farther forward to be able to get that result. And change up their tactics a little bit. But yeah, the challenge for Sergio is to keep everybody sort of grounded and keep working to like Queen Autobeers got sent off today. That was just a bit of immaturity, right? The tackle that he made at the point in time, and he's an important player for them. To get sent off and having to miss the game, like he's a very important player for him. But again, it's the maturity piece, right?
Sure. Coach Keita, it looks as if Kenny has figured things out to get his team over the line in each game so far. What would some of the things that he needs to do to keep this pattern going? I mean, as both Punchy and Macy have said, North Village, they are mature, but they look a little slow. So what does Kenny do to make sure that the run continues?
Yeah, again, it's the mental side of the game, right? So he's played against some pretty, what we would consider decent opposition. He's played PAC, they played Dandytown, they played Hamilton Parish. They haven't come up against the Cougars. But I think that Kenny is taking each game as it comes, and it looks like, as Mason said, he made some decisions today, some positional changes today, that would have made a difference against this Parish side. Different from the game on the other night against PAC. So I think that Kenny will keep the players grounded in a sense of, it one game at a time. I don't think he'd be looking too far ahead or thinking like, we haven't lost a match. So I think that he will continue to work on the things that he has. I think he has an understanding of the players that he has. And although they may appear to be a little slower because they probably are a little older, being able to play smart. So as Maceo said, maturity on Trey Means' part to set the trap, to realize what was happening, to understand even that Parish was still trying to play out of the back, even though they kind of have Village on the back foot. Because what I'm hearing, and I spoke to my dad who was at the match, I mean, he really talked about how much he liked Hamilton Parish and how much he enjoyed the match, period. But he talked a lot about Hamilton Parish and how they played. So I think for Kenny, it just be, whoever's next will have seen or at some point seen who they are, how they play, and we'll prepare the team for that. But Village will have to be, and it's not impossible, but they have to be in a good space right now. Today coming up against Hamilton Parish, who came off of a big victory against Dandytown. And regardless of where Dandytown, it's Dandytown, right? So when everybody heard that score the other night, Hamilton Parish scored, Dandytown won, it's like, what? Regardless of the form that Dandytown's in, So Village will have a bit of confidence going into the next match. But again, it's Kenny keeping them grounded and understanding it's the next. Now we move to the next game. That's it. Parish is done. It's the next game.
Right.
I mean, just to add to that real quick, Earl. Add to that. Today, for me, I mean, I've always been highly critical of North Village, because I know the standards down there. But today, for me, was one of the first times that I saw the puzzle, what they had in place, put together right. With the right back that they had out there, the left back, the two center halves. Kenny made a big decision in dropping the captain to my Jennings. So he was on the bench. That's a big decision, right? And the puzzle was put together for this match that North Village was efficient based on what they had. They was very efficient, and they was able to control Hamilton Parish's possession because with D-Trade Val, they can control the possession where they didn't really have too many threatening opportunities. Hamilton Paris maybe had 2 goal scoring opportunities that they didn't take, but Norfolk has put the puzzle together for the first time for me today. Based on what the players they had available to them.
All right, let's take another commercial break. When we come back, we'll get into those first division matches over the weekend. We'll be right back.
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seeing this?
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
And welcome back. Well, last night up at Somerset Cricket Club, Devonshire Colts took on St. David's and came away with a 2-1 win. We all were surprised at the first result that Devonshire Colts had at the beginning of the season against Island Rangers, but then they were able to bounce back and get 3 points. Regardless of how you get them, you get 3 points. Putting together a performance to get over the line, Coach Keita, what do you think Devonshire Colts worked on this week to ensure that they had a better result against St. David? You muted yourself.
Scoring goals. They would have looked at the things that possibly went wrong. I think that they may have even gone into the game against Island Rangers overconfident, thinking that it's Island Rangers, we just come off on the Premier. So I think they probably would have had an eye opener and realized, you know what? And my hope is that they would have come together as a team and said, listen, we have to do better. Now, the opposition, St. David's, I'll make sure I pick my words correctly here. St. David's probably was an easy target to get back on track. Having, travel and how to pay us. I think that they would have probably said, you know what, this is the game, this is the team that we can work on, the things that we need to work on to be successful, and we need to start here. So I wasn't completely surprised at the result. I think I picked Colts. I hope I picked them, but I wasn't completely surprised at the result, and I hope that they can kick on from her. But that would have been my idea, that they would have realized, oh, wait a minute, just because we're the newly demoted Premier Division teams are not going to allow us to just walk all over them. So
Right. Now, Punchy, looking at a team like Devonshire Colts playing against St. David's, your thoughts on St. David's and where they go from here? Because they've gotten one home travel to Somerset out of the way, but they got a lot of work to do.
Well, my concern would be what my thing is. I think St. Davis is going to be St. Davis. They're going to be, well, if Aaron Lugo in charge, I think he's in charge. Yeah. I never thought that they're going to Somerset. I thought that score would have been like the Devonshire Coast. My Devonshire Coast would have won this game comfortably. In terms of St. Davis are going to be St. Davis. All right. They're rebuilding. They have a structure. They're trying to have a structured program, and I say trying. With the juniors, and I think they're heading in the right direction with Aaron Lugo in charge. My main concern would be about Devonshire Coast. Like, what is really going on there? That also used to be an institution, which is a grave concern for me about this country in terms of Devonshire Coast and like Ray Jones and the people that are involved with it. Why are they in this predicament? What is going on with Devonshire Coast? Maybe, I don't know, restructuring. There's something wrong there, right? There's definitely something wrong there. Do they have the quality of players? Who's in charge? What's going? My main concern would be in that division. We would think that Devonshire Coast will rule over teams, and it's not happening. So, of course, we're concerned. We'll see what goes on there and who is really in charge of the club itself, the whole makeup. Remember, Donald Dane must be thinking, "Wow. What is going on here?" Right. So my that's my my take on that. Right. In that, what's going on with Devonshire Coast.
Sure. And Maceo, for a team like Devonshire Colts, as Punchy has indicated, and Coach Kita has indicated, newly demoted, they have a big reputation, but it looks as if they've gotten off to a struggling start, but picked up 3 points. What do you think they need to do to kind of get themselves in a position to challenge for a spot to get back into the Premier Division? Now, we're only 2 games in, but they need to make a run.
I'm going to make a very oxymoron comment. I mean, they would have got the result today because Ray Jones was there. And last week I heard that he was away, he wasn't on the bench. So he would have been the part as to them getting the result and organizing them and driving them to get the result, because let's be honest, he is very passionate about Devonshire Coast. But for Devonshire Coast to improve, Ray Jones has to go. They have to go past Ray, and they have to try something that's past Ray because he's taking them up, he's taking them down, he's taking them up, he's taking them down. He's been president. They have to go past him. And if you go back a little bit, remember at Devonshire Coast, we're going on a pathway when they had the guy there from Iceland, was a coach there that came there, and they would start to just have a new look, a new set of information, somebody different, So the solution to Devonshire Coast is moving past Ray Jones. That's the solution to him, to moving past Ray Jones.
Interesting take. Well, the next game was one that a lot of people was looking forward to, and that was Paget's first game. They traveled to Bernard Park to take on Young Man Social Club. They were stunned early because they were down 2-0 after about 15 minutes, but managed to come back and draw a 3-3. Looking at that game, it was a really, really slow start for a team like Paget. I know they wanted to come in with high energy, but it just wasn't there at the beginning, and they managed to, you look at Young Man Social Club, who faded in the end. Your early thoughts on Maceo, on a team like Paget?
Well, I know they would have Paget would have arrogantly walked into the game to say we're going to beat it, and like, oh, hold on, we're down 3-0. But then it also shows the mentality monsters that they are to say we're down 3-0 and we're gonna come back. I did have a conversation with their coach, player coach Antoine Russell, and he was happy that it worked out that way to show his team they need to play football to win. So he knows that you need to come here to play. You can't. This is not under 12s when you walk there because you know you got the best team. You won the game before it played. You have to play the game to win. And so I think they would have realized today and this could be a very blessing to them that it happened this way and they didn't lose, and the next games now does he mentally prepare these players to understand you have to play to win. You can't just walk in and say I'm Antoine or I'm Deion Stavo or I'm this and just give me my points. You have to play the game to win.
Sure. And Punchy, looking at a team like Social Club, they went to White Hill last week and got a 5-0 victory. They find themselves up 2 and 3-0 against a Paget, but then kind of fell by the wayside. What would you be thinking, or what was your thoughts on how things materialized, especially in the second 45 minutes, with Paget being allowed to come back?
I'm really happy for Streaker. I think make sure Streaker's in charge of the team now.
Social Club, yeah.
Yeah, Social Club, yeah. You're gonna see some structure, but then in terms of the talent that Paget have, it's just like maybe Paget's talent just shone through in the second half. But I think Social Club will be one of those teams, just like let me see, Ron. Let's say we take Dwayne Streaker Iverson took him to Wolves. You'll see it because they got better players. I don't think Social Club have the players that Streaker will take them to the next level. Now with Paget, this is a whole different thing. We're all happy about with Antoine coming in board, but then it's a reality check too for Antoine in terms of coaching, right? In terms of what he needs to do, what he has at his disposal. So surprisingly enough, that most people expect, they're gonna run away with the league. It ain't gonna happen like that. I don't think. No, I shouldn't say that right away. I don't think it's gonna happen like that. Antoine will have to coach, and he will have to make a decision. He just knows. He just got to do it. And so we're gonna be asking, okay, with Paget and maybe in the Shield games, in the FA games, the first round games, we're gonna see what they're really about. And it's gonna be a quest for Antoine Russell. Putting somebody in charge of a team, and because of namesake, okay, he's Antoine Russell, that doesn't mean he's going to make a good coach. And what is going to be done there? Maybe it will take time, and so I wish him the best. But I do know that they have quality. It will depend on what he does, what he's capable of doing there.
And Coach Keita, clearly a surprise result for Paget starting the season. I mean, they didn't lose, but it would have been a surprise to some of them that they at first find themselves down, and then were able to come back to draw the match.
Yeah, they would have been a bit disappointed that they didn't have the first match to play against St. David's last week, right? Which they would have been able to kind of work out some of the kinks that I'm sure they saw today.
You're calling St. David's Griffin boys.
What's that?
You're calling St. David's Griffin boys.
No, I'm just saying that they would have had an opportunity to have a look at their team in a match before today, because I'm going to tell you that Social Club would have stunned them. And I agree with Mason that they would have shown up saying, look who we are. We're Premier Division players to an extent, some of them. Did Antoine play today?
He did. He
came on.
He came on. Yeah, he can't. So again, is he going to be finding himself in that situation this season where, like, I put this team out there to do the job. Oh, now I got to come on and do the job, right? So I think that's this year for Paget, as much as they are a talented team and they have some qualities there to play and be dominant, that they're going to find that teams are not just going to say, oh, okay, as Mason said, this is who you are. Just come, take the points, and we'll give them to you. So again, I think that not playing last week would have hurt them a little. As the start of this match, when they were down 2 and 3-0, like, oh, hang on a second, this is not what we thought we were going to experience. But again, kudos for having the mentality, having the strength, having obviously the tactical awareness to come back and tie the game.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Peter Ricard, who's just going to give us a brief update on programs that he's involved with over in the UK that can help our young people in the sport of football. We'll be right back with Peter Ricard. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
I'm also thankful and grateful because my greatest value of my life is my legacy.
But why I do it? I feel supposed to do it. I was put here to be here, to do what I'm doing right now. Once I see somebody moving, it's the greatest joy for me. There's a little person being born.
I am thankful that people have given me the trust, for me to empower them, from my players to my family to friends. And that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful that people have allowed me and trusted me to be in their life.
Putting down the weapons.
You seen this?
Welcome back. We're joined by Peter Ricard. Peter, first of all, welcome to the show. What you've been able to accomplish so far over in the UK, working with several teams, where actually, for you guys' sake, my co-host's sake, Peter and I is actually going to be starting a every twice a month program for young people and their parents to understand the pathway to professionals, where Peter and some other coaches at the clubs that he's at give advice on what youngsters need to be looking at, ages that we need to be looking at, all the stuff that they've actually pushed through professionals from their program. So Peter, just give us a brief on some of the things we'll be initially looking at regarding pathways to professionals. I think he's having a bit of internet problems.
What is the program that you're going to be starting, Earl? Just repeat that for me.
Pathways to professionals.
All right.
Yeah. I think he's having internet problems. Can you hear me, Peter? Well, we can't hear you.
When's it due to start, Earl?
Probably week after next.
Okay.
And it's going to be twice a month, where Peter and other coaches over in the UK will be giving advice on what is needed for our kids to get into their systems. Or breaking down of it.
For me, Earl, just as we're waiting for him to come back, I've interacted with Peter a few times. He's somebody that also should be one of the BFA scouts. He's somebody that should be in the inside of the BFA, and scouting and reporting on the players that are over there, what they're doing. He's got the kid, he's had the kid, Andre Torch's kid under his wing. He's had few kids on his wing, and he could be a good liaison officer or scouting officer to provide feedback on what players are doing. So I think this is a great thing that he's pushing. He's pushing this agenda. But it's something that I think he should, for me, from the BFA perspective, I'll encourage to bring people like that in the inside of the organization.
Definitely. Well,
Earl, I actually got to run. But before I go, I just want to offer condolences to Harvey, David, and Andrew on the passing of their mom.
Yes.
I meant to do it last week, but I forgot. But send me the teams and I'll send you my picks. But
You just don't want to be around to see what school you got.
You can tell me that. You can tell me my school. I know it's not good, but don't worry.
You bounce back. You
I will bounce back. You know I will.
Yeah. You only got 3 this week.
And then you got 3. That's fine. That's cool.
I'm still waiting on the Dandytown Boulevard. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool,
All right,
guys. Have a good night. Okay?
All right. Okay. I'll send them to you. We'll actually get into our picks now, and we'll look back at last week's picks, starting with the Wednesday night matches. Dandytown and Hamilton Parish. Maceo was the only one to take Parish, so he picked up a point there. PHC and North Village, myself and Coach Kita took PHC. Punchy and Maceo picked North Village. So Maceo had 2 points and Punchy had 1. We all took Devonshire Cougars, adding to the total. And then on Saturday night, I took St. George's along with Maceo. Punchy, you took Somerset Trojans, and Coach Kita took a draw. And then today's matches, we all took PHC, picking up a point. Myself and Punchy took North Village, and Maceo and Nikita, Coach Kita, picked a draw for the North Village Hamilton Parish match. And then the Dandytown Hornets, obviously that's going on now. I picked a draw, Punchy picked Dandytown, Maceo picked Boulevard, and Coach Kita picked Dandytown. Then into the first division, I picked St. David's along with Maceo, and Punchy picked Devonshire Colts, and Coach Kita picked a draw. And then Somerset Eagles and BAA, we all picked BAA. Ireland Rangers and Southampton Rangers, we all picked Ireland Rangers. And then, of course, the Young Men's Social Club and Paget match, we all picked Paget Lions, which we all got wrong. So at the end of, we still have the 1 game outstanding, the Dandytown. I picked up 5 points along with Punchy. We both moved to 7. Maceo picked up 6. He's moved to 8, and Coach Kita has picked up 3 and is on 5. So this week on Wednesday night at PHC, it's the quarterfinals of the Dudley Eve. The first match, it's Somerset Trojans against Crossroads, 2 teams that are struggling. Punchy, you're first up.
I'm picking Crossroads for this. Crossroads, even though they're playing up Somerset, I'm gonna pick Crossroads. They're gonna battle. I think they're gonna get the best of Somerset. Morty ain't gonna get that right. Morty ain't got that right yet. I'm gonna have a Crossroads.
Okay. Maceo?
Yeah, Crossroads. Crossroads can at least score girls. And you got Somerset that can score and can't stop girls. So Crossroads for sure.
I'm thinking Trojans.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm thinking Trojans. Okay. Peter, I'll come to you. I'll come to you in just a minute. When we finish these picks, I'll come back to you. Seems as if this got his internet working well. Okay. Second match. Maceo, you're first up. Devonshire Cougars and Boulevard Blazers.
Yeah, Devonshire Cougars. It'll be Boulevard.
I'm going to take Cougars as well. Punchy?
I'm taking Cougars on this. Cougars. Cougars.
Okay. And then weekend matches. It's a rematch between Cougars and Boulevard, but this match is at BAA. I'm going to still take Devonshire Cougars.
Yeah.
Punchy?
Who's that?
Boulevard playing Devonshire Cougars in the league on the weekend.
Where's the game being played at?
BAA.
Cougars gonna take it. Cougars. I was giving Cougars.
Mace?
Yeah, Cougars.
And then Punchy, you're up. PHC are at home to Somerset Trojans.
PHC. PHC.
Okay.
PHC. Yeah.
Maceo?
PHC's played 3 straight home games. Yeah, PHC for sure.
And I'm going to take PHC as well. St. George's Colts host Hamilton Parish at Wellington Oval. Maceo, you're first up.
Yeah, I'm taking Hamilton Parish on this. They're gonna be able to get it right. mind you, their inspirational center half, Otterbridge is missing. Queen Otterbridge is missing.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a miss. But I think Sergio will figure out how to fill that gap. He's got a big decision to make with Jordan Otterbridge as to does he bring him inside to try to score goals, or does he keep playing him until he finds his feet? But I think Hamilton Parish I'm picking.
I'm looking at the fact that St. George's will play
Oh
first.
no! Is St. George's new signing playing this week?
Well, that's I don't know, but that's why I would take them.
I got to be equipped with information. If St. George's.
One of the reasons why I'm going to take St. George's, well, two of the reasons why I'm going to take St. George's, they're on a high, and the possibility that they can have Jonte in the lineup.
Yeah, with Jonte Smith is definitely going to make a difference, because now you got goal threats from a lot of different areas. You got goal threats from the whole brothers. You got goal threats from Jonte Smith. The challenge is, can they stop a goal?
Right.
Can they stop a goal? I'm giving Paris one more vote of confidence before I start going south for him.
Punchy?
I'm good with St. George's on this. See, I think that win the other night against Somerset away from home, even though I think they dominated the game. There's a lot of things that St. George's looked better at that I saw today that Hamilton Parish are not better at. First in the top third, if they can finish off the complete what they create, St. George's can be a team to reckon with.
Right.
They have personality in the team. The coaching staff and the development. But with the whole brothers, and I'm going with St. George's for this. I'm going with St. George's for this. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Over St. David's, it's going to be Crossroads entertaining Dandy Town. I've taken Dandy Town. Punchy?
I'm taking Dandy Town for that. I still think that Gumbo is going to have figured out what it's going to do, how it's going to play a home and away. He hasn't figured that out yet. I'm going with Dandy Town for that.
Okay.
And it's not so straightforward. It's not straightforward that Danny Town can get the result over Crossroads. It's not so straightforward, especially with Crossroads having a goal score in there. But I think Danny Town as an organization, their maturity is going to surpass what Crossroads. So I'm picking Danny Town.
Okay. And then the final match, Robin Hood are at home. Well, the final Premier Division match, Robin Hood are at home to North Village. Punchy?
That's North Village. If this is gonna be a real test. It's funny what I saw today about Kenny and his coaching, right? And what he has available at North Village. I think with North Village, I keep saying, if one team in this country just come up with finishing on the 18-yard box, like all the passes are completed, just finish the game off, they'll win hands down. North Village are capable of doing that, but today they were really I couldn't believe it, just how bad they were. Even if the score was 2-0, they could have put Paris away at 5 and 6. But so anyway, this game here, I'm gonna go with North Village on this one.
All right, Maceo.
Yeah, North again. The maturity keeps coming out, and the efficiency keeps coming out. They can sustain being attacked, and then they can get a goal when they need it. Yeah, it's not free flowing football. It's not expensive football, but they're showing maturity and they're showing a mentality to win games. North Village is actually now, for me, they're becoming an actual title contender. It'll be interesting. I mean, some things are being dictated to Kenny. He's not had available Ian Simmons, who usually plays number 10, and that's been a blessing in disguise that has had to put people in different areas of the field. He's had to try people that are not sort of his favorite type of player, and it's working. So if he builds on what he saw today and keeps building on that, North Village is a title contender.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mason. Can I just say something here? it's very close for concern. So I'll make some notes about North Village. Considering anyway. In the longevity of the league, they could probably be okay for the league. They would probably go okay and maybe win the league. But one of my concern is that they just give up too much opportunities. So in the FA Cup, in the League Cup, or even in the league, I think we're gonna have problems with North Village. I just think so. It's just. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the chances that I see that have been created against North Village, they should have been buried, right? So, what I think is that will they compete for the league in the long? Yeah, sustainably they will go win the odd game. Yes, they will go to Somerset and win, but there's something still lacking at North Village that I see that I don't see them winning. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to win the cup this year. If they do win the league, yeah. But I don't know if they're going to win the cup this year if they don't win the league. Other than that.
Yeah, the North Village Robin Hood game is actually on Thursday at BAA and not on Sunday. It was due to be Cougars and Boulevard on Thursday night, but because they're playing on Wednesday night, they've moved that game to the Sunday. And I've actually taken North Village for that particular game as well. Now we move into the first division where we have Somerset Eagles hosting Ireland Rangers. I'm actually going to take Ireland Rangers because I think Somerset Eagles are still trying to figure themselves out. They've had an influx of a lot of players, but I think they're still trying to figure out how they're going to play, who's playing in what position. So I'm going to take Ireland Rangers despite them losing to Southampton Rangers today. Punchy?
I'm gonna take Ireland Rangers for that. I think Jeremy Salom, he just, he hasn't figured this out yet. It's just, for them to lose that amount of goals, to concede that many goals against Social Club at home, I just don't know where they're going. So Jeremy's got a task on his hands. I'm going with Ireland Rangers for this.
Maceo?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Ireland Rangers, this will be, they can take advantage of Somerset Eagles' insecurity and at this point in time, Ireland Rangers, this is a game for Ireland Rangers.
Then it's BAA against Young Man Social Club. Punchy.
BAA at home, I'm sure, but that's gonna be a little toughy. I'm going for draw for that.
Maceo?
I think BA will have figured out how they lost to Social Club last time with the aggressiveness. And I think they'll be a year into understanding the aggressiveness happens in football and they will learn how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. So to that regard, they learn how to deal with it. I think they'll shine through and they'll win this game too. I'm taking BA.
And I take BA as well. Southampton Rangers and Paget at Southampton Oval. Maceo.
Yeah, Paget's gonna have learned from this week, and they're gonna come with their game face against their neighbors, which is Rangers. I'm picking Paget.
Okay, I've taken Paget as well. Punchy.
I'm taking Paget on that. I mean, just even conceding 3 goals, this 3-0 today. At least they're scoring goals, but I think we're gonna get some things right. I think it's for Paget. It's one step at a time. If Antoine can control his emotion now, I had a talk with him. I say, listen, it's different from playing and coaching. It's a totally different concept there. So I'm going with Paget on that. I think, Paget will win this game.
Okay. And then the final game is St. David's hosting Wolves at Lords. I've taken Wolves. Punchy?
Well, Earl. My concern, like I said to you, is with the Wolves. It's a typical situation where you put somebody who's organized. Like Maceo, take the job and see who Wolves will be. You take the job next week. Take the job. My concern is that what happens in this country, this Wolves has got some talent, but the person in charge of the team just ain't doing the right things for them, man. There's no way that Wolves should be in that division. They got talent. They have like 20 players, man. I go down and watch them train. I'm like, whoa. So, Mike, I think I'm going to go with Wolves on this anyway. I'm going to go with Wolves.
Okay. Maceo?
Yeah, Wolves definitely. Amazingly enough, Wolves is a team that that interested me the most, as far as the way how they want to play football
Yeah.
and the way how they can play football.
Mm.
But trying to figure out the mentality of the players, man. For somebody like me to take down there, I'll need to take a sports psychologist with me as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And you
but,
need, yeah, you need me to help you out. I'm saying, yeah, we just stand on the
I
side
would
here.
need sports
Yeah,
psychologists. I'll
yeah,
need my
yeah.
therapist.
You know, I'm saying we're having this conversation about in Bermuda football in general, right? I'm glad. I'm gonna go on about this, but it's my concern is just like the mentality of players. And then when you have a good mentality of players, quality, then you got to put all those puzzles together. And Maceo always speaks about that, the puzzles. And with Wolves, it's like the puzzles got to be put together. You can't be slack with them. You have to be organized. You have to know exactly what you're trying to achieve with them. And then the players, that's a community club too, just like Paget. And but you need someone in charge that's gonna take them to another level, and that's the problem.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we are joined by Peter Ricard. Peter, again, we started talking about our joint venture pathway to professional. Just give us a brief on some of the things you'll be discussing and letting parents and players and families know in order to get to that professional standard, what it's going to take and where one should start.
Yeah, sure. Good evening, Earl. Good evening to your panel. Apologize for my lateness. I was having some connectivity issues, but I mean, talk about an excellent time to bring me in. Just what Mr. Dill was saying there, the psychology and the attitude. That's something that we definitely have to touch on. If you want to bring players over to England and expect them to be successful, you're going to have the right approach, not just to your training, but your approach to the game, your approach to your nutrition, and just the way you approach the whole experience. So that's definitely something that I'll be touching on.
Maceo made reference to the fact that he's thought that you should be utilized a bit more utilized by the association, in the positions that you've held and the people that you've worked with. But I guess we can get to that down the road, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, thank you, Maceo. I appreciate you. You and I have talked on many an occasion, either WhatsApp, direct phone, or through email, exchange of ideas. I've always held you in quite high regard because I think you have your finger on the pulse of not just what's happening locally, but you always keep up to date internationally. So thank you for that. I always make myself available. I'm always ready to help. All they have to do is reach out to me. I'm more than happy to make myself available and offer my support in whichever way I can from the experience I've gained over the years.
Yeah. One of the things, Peter, you and I talked about when I invited you to come on and talk about, the joint venture, you had indicated that in the UK now we've seen a rule change for young people's football, where they're not allowing them to head the ball. And we saw the US go down this road. Now that the UK have put this in place, do you see kind of the rest of the world following?
So in the UK, what they've done now, from every level from under 12 down, you're not allowed to head the ball. If you do head the ball, it's an indirect free kick. So in all honesty, it took us a little while to adjust, but for me personally, I 100% agree with it, because with the adolescent, the young player, your skull hasn't fully knitted together, your brain is not fully developed. So you imagine heading a ball, especially in the UK on a wet, cold day, your brain's going to rattle around inside your head. And studies have shown that as you age into your mid-50s, your 60s, you do start to develop, unfortunately, the Alzheimer's syndrome. So if we can cut that out from an early age, great. But I think the benefits of it that it brings to the game is that it encourages you to play the ball on the ground a lot more, which I think, I've spent 4 years in the UK now, and I do think that they need to bring that to the game a bit more, playing the ball on the ground. So I think it's going to be a benefit for everybody. And I did share that document with the BFA president. I know a while ago that he was seeking guidance and just monitoring the situation as to what other associations, other countries might be doing. So I shared that with him just for, to kind of keep him up to date on what other jurisdictions are doing. And it's if we have that knowledge on the island, it's only going to benefit our players when they do come overseas, because if you come over as a 11, 12-year-old and you're not familiar with that rule, it will take a little bit of time to adjust.
Definitely, definitely. Well, again, we're going to be collaborating for the pathway to professionals, and we're going to start that in approximately 2 weeks, where we will have at least twice a month. You'll be on with other coaches and players over in the UK, just discussing the way forward. And I know, we guys often talk. One of the things, a lot of parents leave Bermuda with a lack of education on what needs to be done prior to even deciding whether or not you're going to take that, that step. And I think helping advice. Yeah, Macy?
Yeah. I want to ask a question, but I want to load the question. I'm going to first load the question with this photo, right? Oh, you know this is?
I don't have my glasses with me, and I'm on the phone, so I'm struggling a bit, to be honest.
So Arnold Woodridge is Bermuda's first professional player that went over to the UK, back in I think the 60s or something. He's played with Bournemouth, he played professionally.
Mm-hmm.
What I've done, I wanted to understand the journey of a professional player collectively as a Bermudian. So looking at Arnold, looking at Sean Goodall, looking at Clyde Bass, looking at the players that went to the US. And I want to have a conversation in the future about the cultural shift and the mentality. So Clyde Bass would have went over to the UK, and Sean Goodall would have went over. Sean Goodall was 18. Clyde Bass would have been like 20, 23 or something like that, and where they were as a person. Now you got a Johnny and Remy Connaughton, and Johnny went over to the UK at 10 years old and got into the system. What and I was having a conversation with Goder about that, looking at Bermuda collectively. The Key Wales went over at 20, and where their careers went, So let's talk about a Johnny and Remy. They're in the system early because we talk about getting them in the system early and learning what it is over there. A Johnny and Remy have come up with injuries. They've come up with injuries. A Johnny's out for a year now. He's back in Bermuda. I just saw him today. Has a knee injury. Remy had a hamstring injury. What I'm getting at is the cultural shift in mentality and behavior to becoming an athlete, and learning what that actually is. How do we? Because if I look at Clyde, I look at Arnold, I look at Good, I look at those guys, they were able to survive in the UK on high levels of talent. And at those times, we know our players probably trained harder. They probably ate better food because they was getting out of the garden or whatever. And now we've got players that I think are highly talented and highly exposed. They're in the UK early, but they're coming up with these injuries. So I'm hoping the pathway to that pathway and your information starts to talk about that, as to, and we're talking about the psychological piece, the challenge piece. We have a lot of kids that have very, very good lifestyles. So when you come up against the hard lifestyle in the professional football, it's like, what do? Do you cry? Do you dig in deep? Clyde, his book is called The Acid Tax. He had to get police protection because people were racistly, they were racist towards him. Like, he couldn't afford to cry about that, right? So I'm glad to see we're utilizing what you have, because I've been following you for what you're doing in the UK, and it's brilliant what you're doing as a Bermudian, and entwining yourself into that society and learning what you learn. So I'm looking forward for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Peter, yes, we will get together and really announce a starting date, but it'll be within the next 2 weeks once you're back in the UK and you're settled in, and you can start really getting some more information on a timely basis to parents and players, because I think more information, the better they have the opportunity to look and see if it suits what they what they want to achieve in life. All right.
And for me, Earl, thank you for the opportunity. I'm really looking forward to it. And, Maceo, again, with his knowledge and his experience, he's touched on a lot of good points. Unfortunately, with what Sir Clyde will have experienced, it may not be as in your face as it was in his time, but unfortunately, it still exists. And now with the social media, it can be so much more nastier and so much more instant.
Yes.
There are steps, giant strides, I feel, being taken to try and eradicate it, but it's going to take a lot of effort to get away from that mindset, and it's just going to take a lot of hard work, unfortunately. But Maceo, again, to your point of getting out here as early as possible, definitely. 10, 11 years old, you have to get in the environment as early as possible, just to know what the competitiveness is like, the style of football. Even just getting used to the weather and the journeys that you may have to take to play an away game. 2 weeks ago in our league, we play in the JPL, Junior Premier League. Our first away game was a 2-hour drive. So I left home at 8 a.m. for an 11 a.m. kickoff, and I didn't get home until after 3 p.m. Thankfully, we won the match. I don't want to drive all that way to lose, but it just is what it is. But what you find, outside of the professional game at the youth level, you have players that are playing, at my level within MK Dons, they call it the pre-academy. So I get players that drop into my program, so to speak, maybe after a long-term injury or a loss of form. So my job is to get them ready to go back into the academy. Or we have players in our program that are being looked at in the academy to jump into there. But what you find is that these players are training 4 and 5 and 6 times a week, and often playing 2 and 3 matches a week, because they'll play for our pre-academy program, but they'll also play for the grassroots clubs. So a lot of these young men are involved in our pre-academy program, but also playing for the grassroots clubs. So I think that speaks a bit to your injury concerns. Now I know those young men are a bit older, but it does take a toll on your body. A few months ago, towards the beginning of the year, we had a young Bermudian spend 3 months with us, and he is a part of the under-20 national program. So coming from a decent level over in the U.S., he came over to us. He wanted that professional experience. We arranged it for him. Within his first 2 weeks of training, he was on the muscle rubs, the foam rollers, the painkillers, everything. The pace, the intensity, the physicality of the game was just not what he was used to. So it took him a bit of time to adjust. So the levels are different. The parents have to be aware of that. The players have to be aware of that. So going forward, Earl, I'm really looking forward to what we can kind of lay a foundation to make Bermudians more aware of what it's going to be like over here. So we don't come over with our eyes half closed type of thing. We're more prepared. We're more ready to hit the ground running.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to it. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for your time this evening. We'll be back next week, Sunday, with another edition of the Islandstadt Football Show. Good luck with your picks this week, guys. And Peter will be in touch. Folks, enjoy the rest of your night.
All right, take care.